"No one's coming for you," they said, but a cowboy's child ran to her crying, "Mama!" Maria stood at the edge of her small ranch, watching the sun rise over the endless plains. The sky was a pale orange, turning slowly into blue, and the wind blew softly through the dry grass. She inhaled the fresh air, but even in that quiet beauty, she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. Life had been hard since her husband died. Suddenly, everything she had built seemed fragile, like it could disappear with a single gust of wind. The children were still asleep inside their small wooden house. Their soft breathing was the only sound that made her feel a little calm. Maria's little daughter, Emma, curled under a worn blanket, and her son, Tommy, slept in the bed beside her. They were her heart, her reason to keep going, but the reality of their life was harsh. The ranch was far from town, isolated, and often the people in the nearby village would whisper about her as if she were invisible. "No one's coming for you," they said. Words like stones, heavy and sharp, rolled in her mind. They didn't understand her life, didn't see the long days she spent working from dawn to nightfall. Sometimes, she felt their eyes on her when she went to town for supplies, watching, judging, silently saying she would fail. And at times, those words echoed in her head, "No one's coming for you." Maria shook her head, trying to push the thought away. She couldn't dwell on them, not when she had so much to do. She started the morning chores as she always did. The horses needed feeding first. Their soft whinnies greeted her as she poured oats into their troughs. She brushed each animal with careful strokes, noticing the way the sun made their coats shine. The simple act of caring for them brought a tiny sense of peace, even though the day ahead would be long. After the horses were fed, she moved on to the fields. The crops had been planted carefully in the spring, but the dry plains made every day a struggle. She watered the plants, pulled the weeds, and checked for pests. The work was exhausting, but she kept going, thinking of the meals she needed to prepare for her children and the small income she earned by selling vegetables and eggs in town. Every drop of sweat was a reminder that she was fighting for their survival. By mid-morning, the sun was high and the wind had grown stronger. Maria paused for a moment, wiping her forehead with the back of her hand. The sky was starting to change, clouds gathering on the horizon. She felt a small unease in her stomach. The wind was carrying dust from far off in the plains, and the air smelled of dry earth. Storms were not unusual in this region, but the way the clouds moved made her heart beat faster. Inside the house, Tommy was awake now, rubbing his eyes and yawning. "Mama, what's that noise?" he asked, pointing toward the wind. Maria smiled softly, trying to hide her worry. "It's just the wind, sweetheart. It's nothing to be afraid of. Come help me carry water from the well, okay?" Emma stirred at the sound of her brother's voice. She climbed out of bed, clutching her small blanket. "Mama," she whispered, eyes wide. Maria knelt down and hugged her daughter tightly. "Yes, my love, Mama's here," she said. The children felt her warmth, and for a moment the fear of the approaching storm seemed to fade. But Maria couldn't ignore the feeling in her bones. Something about the sky made her heart tighten. The next hour was a blur of activity. Maria had the children help her carry buckets of water to the garden and the animals. Their small hands struggled, but they tried, giggling when water splashed over the sides of the buckets. Maria's laugh joined theirs, a sound that felt almost foreign to her ears. Even in the middle of hard work and fear, moments like this reminded her why she kept going. By noon, the sky had darkened. The clouds moved faster now, swirling in strange shapes, and the wind picked up, whistling through the trees and rattling the wooden shutters of the house. Maria knew that a storm was coming, a big one. She had seen storms like this before, storms that could destroy fences, wash away crops, or worse, hurt someone if they were caught outside. She gathered the children inside, closing all the windows and doors tightly. "Mama, will the storm hurt us?" Emma asked, clutching Maria's sleeve. Her little voice trembled, and Maria felt a pang in her heart. "No, my love," she said firmly, though inside she wasn't so sure. "We will be safe inside. Mama will keep you safe." The wind grew louder. Dust swirled around the ranch, and the first drops of rain began to fall, cold and heavy. The children huddled close, and Maria tried to remain calm, even as the storm battered the house. She could hear the trees creaking, the tin roof banging, and the sound of the animals in the barn. Every noise made her heart race. As the afternoon passed, the storm intensified. Lightning flashed across the sky, and thunder rolled like the roar of a wild animal. Maria held Emma and Tommy close, whispering reassuring words. She tried to keep her own fear hidden, but a deep ache in her chest reminded her of the dangers surrounding them. She thought of the townspeople's words again, "No one's coming for you." But she refused to let that idea take hold. She had to survive for herself and for her children. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the barn. Maria's heart jumped. She ran to the window, peering through the rain. One of the fences had fallen, and a horse was tangled in the wire, struggling to free itself. She grabbed her raincoat and ran through the muddy yard, pulling the animal free, her hands cutting slightly on the sharp edges of the broken fence. The storm's force pushed against her, but she did not stop. She could not. By evening, the storm began to subside. Rain fell softly now, washing the dust from the earth. Maria was drenched and exhausted, but she felt a small sense of relief. The children were safe, the animals were accounted for, and the house had survived the worst of the storm. She gathered them around the fireplace, warming them with blankets and soft words. As they sat together, Maria realized something important. Even when the world seemed to have turned its back on her, even when whispers of doubt and fear pressed against her heart, she had found strength she didn't know she possessed. The wind outside still howled gently, but inside, the warmth of love and survival filled the house. That night, as the children slept safely in their beds, Maria sat by the fire looking out at the darkened plains. The storm had passed, but she knew more challenges would come. Still, she promised herself one thing: no matter what happened, she would protect her children. No one else might come, but she would. And in that moment, a quiet determination settled in her heart. She would face the lonely days, the whispers of the townspeople, and the harsh realities of life on the plains. She would endure for Emma and Tommy, and for herself. She was a mother, a protector, a fighter, and nothing could take that away. The storm had passed, leaving the ranch damp and quiet, but Maria's heart still raced. She had thought the worst was over, but a new worry had settled over her. The wind had calmed, yet the air smelled of wet earth and something else, something that made her uneasy. She looked out over the plains, where puddles reflected the gray sky, and her gaze fell on the barn. She had fixed the fence earlier, but she could see that part of it had been knocked loose again by the storm. The animals were restless, moving nervously in the barn. Maria called softly for Tommy and Emma. "Come inside, children." "Stay close to me," she said, her voice gentle but firm. Emma ran to her, small hands clutching the edges of her blanket. "Mama, the barn, the horses, they're scared," she whispered. "I know, sweetheart," Maria replied, holding her daughter close. "We'll check them together, okay?" The three of them walked carefully through the muddy yard. The ground was slippery, and the puddles reflected flashes of gray clouds above. Maria's boots squelched with each step, but she didn't complain. She needed to make sure the animals were safe, and she needed to stay strong in front of the children. Fear had to be managed, especially for them. As they reached the barn, Maria noticed that Emma was lagging behind slightly, her small hands gripping the wooden post at the entrance. Her eyes were wide with fear, scanning the shadows inside the barn. Maria knelt down, holding her daughter's shoulders. "Emma, it's okay. I'm here, the horses are safe, we'll be safe too." Emma nodded, but she didn't let go of her mother. The storm had left her shaken. Maria understood. Even she had been afraid during the storm, afraid of what could happen if she couldn't protect her children. She had to push the fear aside and focus on the task ahead. The barn smelled of wet hay and animals, strong and earthy. The horses stamped their hooves and nickered softly as Maria approached. She checked each one, making sure the ropes were secure and that no animal had been hurt during the storm. She patted their necks, whispering calming words. Slowly, the horses began to relax under her steady touch. Tommy, curious and brave despite the storm, wandered to one of the smaller pens. He pointed at a young calf shivering from the cold and rain. "Mama, what about that one?" he asked. Maria knelt beside him, wrapping her coat around the calf's small body. "We'll warm it up inside." "Don't worry," she said. She carried the calf to a corner of the barn, making a small bed of hay. Emma watched closely, her fear slowly giving way to fascination. The children had learned from a young age to help with the animals, but today the storm had made them realize how fragile life could be. After the barn was secured and the animals settled, Maria decided it was time to bring the children back to the house. The sky was still gray, and she knew the storm could return, but for now there was a calm that felt fragile yet comforting. She held Emma's hand and guided Tommy along the muddy path, making sure their small feet didn't slip. Suddenly, Emma froze. Her eyes widened and she looked past Maria toward the edge of the field. "Mama, I see someone," she whispered, her voice trembling. Maria's heart skipped a beat. She followed her daughter's gaze and saw a figure in the distance, moving slowly toward the house. The wind had blown it toward them, and at first Maria couldn't recognize who it was. Her mind raced. Could it be a neighbor checking on them after the storm, or someone else entirely? The figure grew clearer. It was a man on horseback, a young cowboy she hadn't seen before. His horse was strong and steady, moving carefully through the muddy field. Maria felt a strange mix of relief and caution. She didn't know this man, yet there was something familiar about the way he rode, as if he had done it his whole life. Emma clutched Maria's hand tightly. "Mama, is he coming for us?" she asked, her small voice trembling with hope and fear. Maria smiled gently, trying to calm her daughter's nerves. "I think he might be here to help," she said, though uncertainty lingered in her own mind. She knew better than to trust too easily, especially after everything the storm had taken from them. The cowboy approached slowly, stopping a few feet from the house. He dismounted carefully, his boots sinking slightly into the wet mud. He held out his hands in a peaceful gesture. "I heard your children crying," he said in a calm, deep voice. "Are they safe?" Maria nodded, her chest tightening with emotion. "Yes, they're safe now," she replied, her voice quiet. "The storm, it was strong. It scared them, but we managed." The cowboy looked around at the barn, the broken fence, and the muddy yard. "You've done a lot on your own," he said, "but storms like this, they can be dangerous. Sometimes people need a little help." Maria felt a lump in her throat. She had spent so long believing the townspeople's whispers that no one would come for her. And now, here was someone offering help without judgment. She didn't know his name, and yet she felt a glimmer of trust. Emma, unable to contain herself, ran toward the cowboy, her small arms outstretched. Thank you for coming," she cried. Maria's heart swelled as she watched her daughter run into the arms of a stranger, a man who had come to offer safety. The cowboy crouched to Emma's level, smiling gently. "It's okay, little one. You're safe now," he said. His calm presence seemed to fill the air, pushing back the fear that had settled in the house. Maria approached slowly, still cautious. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice steady but curious. "My name is Luke," he said. "I ride across the plains sometimes, check on farms after storms, help where I can. I heard your cries and came as fast as I could." Maria felt tears prick her eyes. She had been so alone for so long, and now, for the first time in many weeks, someone had truly come for them. She didn't know Luke, yet she could sense that he meant well, that he was genuine in his offer of help. The children were full of energy now, excited by the presence of the cowboy who had come to their aid. Emma told Luke about the barn, the horses, and the calf they had saved. Tommy added details about the mud, the wind, and the storm. Luke listened carefully, nodding and offering gentle guidance on how to care for the animals, showing them small tricks that made their chores easier. Maria watched quietly, feeling a mixture of gratitude and relief. She had been so used to facing every challenge alone that this kindness felt almost unbelievable. She realized that help didn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it arrived quietly, riding across the plains on a strong horse, simply offering hands to steady the weak and frightened. As the afternoon passed, Luke helped repair the broken fence and secured the barn door more firmly. Maria noticed the children laughing and playing near him, their fear of the storm slowly fading in his presence. The house, once filled with tension and worry, now felt lighter, filled with hope. By evening, the sun began to peek through the clouds, casting warm light on the wet earth. Maria and Luke sat together outside the barn, watching the children tend to the animals under their supervision. The sound of laughter, the soft neighing of the horses, and the rustling of the grass in the breeze made Maria feel a sense of peace she hadn't felt in months. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that even when the townspeople said no one would come for her, someone could, and had. It was not the grand rescue she had imagined in stories, but it was real, immediate, and filled with genuine care. Luke looked at Maria and smiled. "You've done a lot to keep this place running," he said softly. "You've been brave. The children are lucky to have you." Maria felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had spent so long doubting herself, believing the world would abandon her. And yet here was proof that even in the most difficult times, courage and perseverance were noticed, and sometimes rewarded with kindness. Emma ran to Maria, tugging at her sleeve. "Mama, can he stay?" she asked, looking up with hopeful eyes. Maria smiled down at her daughter. "I think he can visit, sweetheart," she said. She realized that allowing someone into their lives didn't mean losing control. It meant sharing the burden and perhaps finding strength in numbers. The night settled over the ranch, calm and quiet after the storm's chaos. Inside the house, the children went to bed with smiles on their faces, tired but happy. Maria sat by the window, watching the stars appear in the clear sky. She felt a sense of gratitude, of hope, and of something she had not allowed herself to feel in a long time: trust. Even in the middle of hardship, even when others said no one would come for her, help could arrive unexpectedly. And sometimes it came just when it was needed most, bringing with it a glimmer of hope that life, no matter how hard, could still hold moments of light. Maria whispered a quiet prayer of thanks, not just for the calm after the storm, but for the arrival of Luke, the cowboy who had answered her daughter's cries. And deep in her heart, she knew that tomorrow, whatever challenges came, she would face them with a little more courage, knowing that she was not truly alone. The days after the storm brought a calm that felt almost magical. The sky was clear in the mornings, and the sun warmed the wet earth, turning puddles into tiny mirrors that reflected the wide, open plains. Maria moved around her ranch with a renewed energy. Her muscles ached from the storm and the repairs, but her heart felt lighter. She had seen in the fear and chaos how fragile life could be, and now she felt a spark of hope she hadn't felt in months. Luke visited often, helping with the chores that had seemed endless. He repaired fences, fed the animals, and helped Maria tend to the fields. At first, Maria had been cautious, keeping a careful distance, but she noticed how natural it felt to have him around. The children laughed more freely, Emma skipping beside him as he guided her in collecting eggs from the chicken coop, and Tommy proudly showing Luke how he could lead the horses through the barnyard without stumbling. Maria watched them and felt a mixture of relief and gratitude. It was strange to let someone into their lives. She had been so used to doing everything herself, carrying every burden, that having another person share the work felt almost dangerous. But Luke had proven himself trustworthy in the storm. He hadn't judged, hadn't questioned her abilities, and had shown nothing but care for the children. Slowly, Maria felt herself begin to relax in his presence. One afternoon, the sun was high and warm, casting long shadows across the fields. Maria had just finished watering the crops when she noticed Emma wandering toward the far side of the ranch, where the small creek ran. The child had a habit of exploring, her curiosity always getting the better of her. Maria called out, "Emma, stay close." But before she could reach her, a loud splash rang through the air. Maria's heart stopped. She ran, her boots sinking into the soft mud, and saw Emma struggling in the shallow part of the creek, caught on a branch that had fallen in during the storm. "Emma," Maria cried, diving into the water. The current was stronger than she expected, but she fought through it, reaching her daughter and lifting her into her arms. Emma clung tightly, her small body shaking, her eyes wide with fear. From the field, Luke had seen the struggle. He ran to help, grabbing a long branch and carefully moving it aside to clear the creek. Together, they pulled Emma and a small calf that had wandered too close to the water out of danger. The children were safe, soaked and trembling, but alive. Maria held Emma close, whispering soothing words while Luke checked on Tommy, who had tried to help but had nearly slipped into the water himself. After the crisis, Maria led the children back to the house. Their clothes were muddy and wet, and their hair plastered to their heads, but they were unharmed. Emma kept looking up at her mother, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and relief. "Mama, you saved me," she said softly. "Yes, my love," Maria replied, brushing her daughter's wet hair from her face. "But we all have to be careful. The world can be dangerous, but we'll face it together." Luke stayed for a while, helping dry the children and clean the mud from their boots. He didn't try to overstep or offer advice unless Maria asked. His presence was steady, calm, and reassuring. Maria found herself relaxing more and more in his company, noticing the way the children's laughter returned when he was around. Over the next few days, the ranch slowly returned to normal. Fences were repaired, crops were checked for damage, and the animals grew accustomed to the post-storm calm. Maria worked side by side with Luke, and in quiet moments, she found herself sharing small stories about her late husband, about the struggles she had faced as a single mother, and about the dreams she held for her children. Luke listened, never interrupting, offering only gentle encouragement and quiet understanding. Emma and Tommy thrived under the attention and care. Emma loved helping Luke with the animals, asking questions and learning quickly. She was fearless now, exploring the fields with curiosity, guided by Luke's watchful eyes. Tommy proudly showed Luke his growing skills with the horses, racing across the paddock and laughing when he stumbled but quickly getting back up. Maria watched them, her heart full. One evening, as the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold, Maria stood with Luke outside the house. The children were playing nearby, their laughter echoing across the plains. Maria felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. "You've done so much," Luke said quietly. "This place, it's strong because of you, and the children, they're lucky to have you." Maria smiled a little shyly. "I've had to be strong," she said. "But I'm glad for your help. It's easier with someone else here." Luke nodded. "You don't have to carry everything alone. It's okay to accept help." Maria looked at him, feeling a warmth she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. The world had been harsh, and people had said no one would come for her. But here was someone who had come without judgment, without asking for anything in return. She realized that life didn't have to be carried alone. As the days passed, Luke became a part of the ranch's daily life. He helped with chores, taught the children about safety around animals, and even showed Maria a few techniques to make her work easier. The children grew attached to him, seeing him not just as a helper, but as a friend and protector. Maria noticed that even she was beginning to trust him completely, feeling safe in his presence, something she hadn't felt in a long time. But life on the plains was never without challenges. One afternoon, a strong wind blew across the ranch, carrying the scent of rain from a distant storm. Maria noticed Emma running toward the creek again, chasing after a small bird. "Emma, no!" Maria shouted, but the child didn't hear her. The wind and the distance made her voice faint. Luke, seeing the danger, ran after Emma. Maria followed, her heart pounding. They reached her just as Emma slipped on the muddy bank. Luke grabbed her hand, steadying her, while Maria wrapped her arms around the frightened child. "It's okay, Emma. You're safe now," Maria whispered. The children clung to them, their eyes wide with the realization that the world could be dangerous, but that they were protected. Maria felt a deep sense of relief and gratitude. Luke had proven again that he could be trusted, that he was more than a helper, he was a true ally. That evening, as the sun set and the sky turned deep blue, Maria sat with Luke by the fire outside the house. The children were asleep, exhausted from the day's adventures. Maria felt a quiet peace, realizing that the ranch was no longer a place of fear and isolation. It was a place of safety, of growth, and of hope. "You've changed things here," she said softly. "Not just for me, but for the children too." They laugh, they play, they feel safe again. Luke smiled, his eyes reflecting the firelight. "That's all I hoped for," he said. "Safety and a little bit of happiness. You deserve that." Maria felt tears prick her eyes. She had spent so long believing that no one would come for her, that help was a distant dream. And yet, here it was, not in grand gestures or promises, but in small, steady actions that made life brighter and easier. She realized that trust and courage could bring unexpected help, and that sometimes hope came riding across the plains on a strong horse just when it was needed most. Over the next week, life on the ranch settled into a rhythm. Maria and Luke worked together, repairing fences, tending animals, and keeping the children safe and happy. The bond between them grew stronger, built on trust, respect, and the shared goal of protecting the family. Emma and Tommy were happier than they had been in months, their laughter filling the air, their curiosity encouraged rather than feared. One afternoon, while checking on the horses, Maria noticed a small group of townspeople approaching the ranch. At first, she felt a flash of fear. Old habits die hard, but Luke stood by her side, calm and reassuring. The townspeople had come to see how she had managed after the storm, to offer small gifts and words of encouragement. Maria realized that life could change, that even those who had whispered doubts could witness strength and resilience and respond with kindness. As the sun set that evening, Maria stood on the porch, watching her children play with Luke nearby. She felt a deep sense of gratitude and peace. She had faced storms, both literal and emotional, and she had survived. And now, with Luke's help, she could face whatever came next with confidence, knowing that they were not alone. The ranch, once a place of isolation and struggle, had become a home filled with laughter, safety, and hope. Maria understood, finally, that help could arrive in unexpected ways, that courage and love could draw allies to her side, and that even in a world that often seemed harsh and unforgiving, she and her children could thrive. And as the stars appeared in the night sky, shining over the plains, Maria whispered a quiet thanks for safety, for trust, and for the unexpected gift of a helping hand when it was needed most. The next morning dawned bright and warm, with the soft light of the sun stretching over the plains. Maria moved quietly around the ranch, checking on the animals, feeling a calm she had not known for months. The storm was long gone, leaving only the fresh smell of wet earth and new growth. The children laughed as they ran through the yard, chasing each other and playing with the animals. Maria watched them with a gentle smile, feeling a quiet joy that filled her heart. Luke arrived soon after, bringing with him energy and a careful watchfulness. He had become a part of their daily life, almost like family. The children greeted him with hugs and laughter, and even Maria felt lighter in his presence. But life on the plains was never simple, and the day would soon bring another test, one that would challenge their courage and togetherness. The children had wandered toward the small river that ran along the edge of the property. The river had been calm since the storm, but Maria had always warned them to be careful. She saw Emma running too close to the bank, chasing after a small butterfly. "Emma, stop!" Maria shouted, but the wind carried her voice away. Luke noticed at the same time and sprinted toward the child, calling her name. Maria ran as fast as she could, her boots slipping in the wet grass. By the time she reached the riverbank, Emma had leaned too far over to catch the butterfly and slipped, falling into the shallow water. "Emma!" Maria cried, plunging into the river. The current was stronger than it looked, but she fought through it, holding onto the slippery riverbed, her heart pounding with fear. Emma's small hands clung to her mother's coat, her face pale and eyes wide with terror. Luke reached the riverbank quickly, grabbing a long branch and leaning over to guide Maria and Emma toward safety. "Hold on, I've got you," he shouted. Maria's arms ached as she struggled against the water, but Luke's steady presence gave her strength. Together they pulled Emma toward the riverbank, finally reaching the safety of the soft grass. Maria held Emma close, tears mixing with the river water on their faces. "You're safe now, my love," she whispered, her voice shaking. Emma clung to her, shivering but unharmed. Tommy had been following from a distance, trying to help, but he had nearly slipped into the water himself. Luke grabbed him, pulling him safely away from the bank. Maria felt a rush of relief and gratitude. The children were safe, but the danger had reminded her that life on the plains demanded constant attention and care. After drying the children and comforting them, Maria and Luke checked the river and the surrounding area for hazards. They found small branches and debris that could have caused serious injury and cleared them away. Maria realized how quickly accidents could happen, even in familiar places. She resolved to be even more vigilant and to teach the children to respect the land, no matter how safe it seemed. The rest of the day passed with careful attention to chores and safety. Luke helped repair fences along the riverbank, securing them so the children would have a safe area to play. Maria supervised, feeling a sense of calm in their teamwork. Together, they managed the ranch efficiently, with the children helping under careful watch. As the sun began to set, casting warm golden light across the plains, Maria felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. The crisis of the river had tested their courage, but it had also brought them closer together. The children had seen how quickly danger could come, and how safety depended on teamwork, vigilance, and care. Emma and Tommy were tired but happy, and Luke stayed to help them with chores and teach them small lessons about the animals. The children laughed and listened eagerly, their previous fears slowly replaced with confidence. Maria watched, her heart full of pride. She realized that even in a harsh and unpredictable world, moments of safety and joy could be found. As night fell, the family gathered around the fire outside the house. The children sat close, wrapped in blankets, while Maria and Luke prepared a simple meal. The air was cool, and the stars appeared one by one in the clear night sky. The ranch, once filled with fear and isolation, now felt alive with warmth and connection. Maria reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The storm had been a challenge, the river an unexpected danger, but through it all, she had found strength she didn't know she had. And she had found an ally in Luke, someone who had shown her that help could arrive when needed most, and that trust could be earned through kindness and action. The children's laughter filled the air as they recounted the day's adventures, and Maria felt a deep sense of peace. She had survived storms, both literal and emotional, and had protected her children. But she had also learned that courage did not mean facing every challenge alone. Sometimes, true courage came from accepting help and working together. Luke looked at Maria, his eyes reflecting the firelight. "You've done so much for these children," he said softly. "You've protected them, loved them, and given them hope. They are lucky to have you." Maria smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. "And I am lucky," she replied. "Lucky that you came when we needed help, that the children have someone to guide them, and that we can face the world together." The children, tired from the day's events, eventually fell asleep near the fire, safe and warm. Maria stayed up for a while longer, watching the stars and listening to the soft sounds of the night. The ranch was quiet, except for the occasional rustle of the animals and the distant call of a night bird. In that quiet, Maria realized how far they had come. From the fear and isolation after her husband's death to the chaos of the storm and the river, she had faced challenges that seemed impossible. Yet here she was, stronger with her children safe, and with a newfound sense of trust and companionship in Luke. She understood that life on the plains would always be unpredictable. Storms could come, rivers could rise, and danger could appear in the blink of an eye. But she also knew that courage, love, and teamwork could overcome those challenges. She had faced fear and uncertainty and had emerged stronger, and now she could look to the future with hope. The next morning brought a fresh start. The sun rose over the plains, shining on the wet grass and the animals grazing peacefully. Maria, Luke, and the children worked together to care for the ranch. Every small task, from feeding the animals to repairing fences, felt lighter with teamwork and support. The children's laughter filled the air, and Maria felt a sense of belonging she hadn't known in months. As the day went on, Maria realized that her life had changed. The ranch, once a place of struggle and loneliness, had become a home filled with warmth, connection, and hope. She had faced storms, danger, and fear, but she had also found courage, love, and unexpected allies. Luke had proven himself trustworthy and dependable, and the children had learned important lessons about safety, courage, and teamwork. Maria knew that life would continue to bring challenges, but she also knew that they could face them together. By evening, the family sat together on the porch, watching the sun set over the plains. The sky was painted with shades of orange and pink, and the stars began to appear. Maria felt a deep sense of gratitude. They were safe, they were together, and they had survived. Emma ran to her mother and hugged her tightly. "Mama, thank you for saving me," she whispered. Maria held her close, feeling her heart swell with love. "You're safe, my love," Maria said softly, "and we'll always protect each other." Luke smiled, watching the scene, feeling a quiet pride in the family he had come to care for. "They are strong," he said, "and you've given them everything they need to face the world." Maria nodded, feeling a sense of peace and accomplishment. She had faced challenges, found help in unexpected places, and protected her children. The ranch was alive with hope, laughter, and love. As the night settled over the plains, Maria whispered a quiet prayer of thanks. She thanked the stars, the earth, and the people who had come to help. She thanked herself for the courage she had found, and she thanked Luke for his steady presence. Most of all, she thanked the children for reminding her of what truly mattered: love, trust, and the safety of family. The ranch, once a place of fear and isolation, had become a home of strength and hope. Maria, Luke, and the children had faced storms, danger, and uncertainty, but they had emerged stronger together. And as they fell asleep that night, the plains stretching quietly under the starry sky, Maria knew that whatever challenges the future held, they would face them as a family with courage, love, and trust. The sound of the soft night wind, the gentle rustling of the animals, and the quiet laughter of the children filled the air. Maria held Emma close one last time before sleep, feeling her heart full of love and hope. She knew that no matter what came, she would never face it alone again. The story ends with the family safe, united, and stronger than ever, a testament to the power of courage, love, and unexpected help. Maria had learned that life could be harsh, but it could also be beautiful when faced together, with hearts full of hope and trust.